Welcome to Advisor Talk with Frank LaRosa. Brought to you by Elite Consulting Partners, it's the only podcast offering unfiltered guidance and direct advice for all things concerning financial advisors, RIAs, and the practitioners in the wealth management business. Learn more and subscribe today at eliteconsultingpartners.com/podcast. And now, here's your host, Frank LaRosa.
Hey everybody, welcome to Advisor Talk with Frank LaRosa. I am your host, Frank LaRosa, and I am very excited today to have on my show today Rita Robbins. She is the founder and president of a great organization called Affiliated Advisors. She's been doing this a long time. I'm really excited to have her here. The energy is going to be awesome. We're going to do our best to keep this short because we can certainly go off in so many tangents talking about the industry. We've done that in the past when we talk. So, Rita, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great, and thank you so much for having me, Frank.
Listen, one of the things that I try to do, especially if you're a new listener to the audience, I'm always trying to bring people on that can really add value to our listeners and insight into what's happening within the industry. And so I think, we're going to get into your background, which I think is really interesting, especially that you've been in the business a long time, which you'll get into, but as a female professional, having the success that you've had over the number of years as a former wholesaler and now running one of the best organizations that I know of, sort of across the industry of any super large independent firm, I think you bring a unique skill set and opinion and leadership that I would like you to share with everybody. So why don't we start with your background?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for those kind words. I have been in the industry a long time, actually a very long time. The first firm I worked for was E.F. Hutton, and I'm sure that many people listening have no idea who that firm is. So I've been in the business a long time.
Is that a problem for me if I know who they are too? And I used to work for Smith Barney, so that's okay. Those are the good old days. Come on, E.F. Hutton was a great firm.
It was a great firm. So I have always had a passion for this business. In an unusual way, I didn't follow kind of a typical, if there is, trajectory for a lot of people in our business. I never was a financial advisor. I worked in back offices at wirehouses, became an operations manager, and then got into the marketing side of things, which I really love and truly feel like that was my calling. And so for 10 years, I was a wholesaler with Lord Abbott. I was one of 5 women wholesalers in the entire country. And then I had a baby. She's now 29, and I didn't feel like traveling anymore. And I had just spent 10 years living in advisors' offices, many advisors every day, week after week. And I began to really understand what sets successful advisors apart, how they met the challenges, what they did with their time, how they interacted with clients, what skill sets they had. And so that was really the only capital I had, was this knowledge of having lived in advisors' offices for 10 years. And I started an OSJ in 1994. So not only one of the first OSJs, but I believe that I was the first woman to start an OSJ. And I'm really very fortunate and blessed. And we have been going strong since 1994, and it's been richly rewarding.
That's great. So have you always been with Royal? Because for those of you that know, so she runs an OSJ called Affiliated Advisors, which is on the Royal Alliance platform, which is part of Advisor Group. So have you always been on that platform?
No, actually, I was with one other firm previously. We joined Royal Alliance in 2004, so we've been there for quite a long time, and continue to believe that not only are they investing heavily in technology to support advisors' success, but we love the sense of community, the access to senior leadership, their innovative approach to providing service and support for advisors. So that's our home. That's where we've been for a long time and will continue to be.
Love it. So, and you've had some success there. We've had some success with you. Tell listeners a little bit about your OSJ, so affiliated advisors, right? What does it look like? And give us some insight into how did you grow it over the years, right? I understand how you're growing it today, right? Because, I know that I tell my folks, hey, put an advisor on the phone with Rita, and the energy, the passion for the business, and candidly for the financial advisor specific business and servicing them is evident. So how did you grow it? Not how did you started it, but how did you grow it to what it is today? Because then the follow-up question is going to be like, how do you see it? Where do you see your firm in the future? And, sort of layer that with what's happening within the industry, right? And why you feel so strongly about affiliated moving forward.
Great. Well, I'd be happy to. So I believe that the success of affiliated advisors is not just about me. I think I've always been able to really fortunately to surround myself with really excellent people. And in fact, it's more important than ever, I believe, that when you have somebody supporting you, you have a team member, you have an admin that allows you to focus on what you do best, that's a win-win situation. So it's always been really important for me, and now with my partners, Tom Ripper and Trisha Qualley, we want to be good employers. I mean, that is absolutely essential to our running the business. And it's especially essential now because I'll talk a little bit about our growth, but just to start with, most of our employees are remote. You can't hire talent and drive and ambition sorted by a zip code. So we've been remote since before the pandemic. In fact, the only people who aren't remote is myself here in New York City and an executive assistant who's in the other office, and you can't say. So we have really made it our mission to kind of extend the type of support, camaraderie, engagement, concern that we have with our advisors to our team as well. Because our team is really what makes or breaks an advisor's success, in our opinion. And we're not saying advisors can't be successful elsewhere. Of course they can. But I'm just saying that our mission is to help advisors build the practices of their dreams. And that's really what we're all devoted to and dedicated to. And I'm not sure if that answers all of your questions, but I will tell you that we continue to see and believe that there can be a gap between what these now it's obviously very large broker-dealers that work exclusively with independent financial advisors. There's been a huge amount of consolidation in the industry. I think the industry has just gotten to the point where if you're small, you won't be around for very long. And I think it's due to a host of factors that we're all familiar with: the cost of technology, compliance, the cost of hiring great people, providing benefits. There's just a massive amount of cost and a very quickly evolving and rapidly changing industry. So we believe that this OSJ structure that we provide is absolutely like the perfect combination of being supported and being free. So you have a lot of freedom, you have a lot of independence, which obviously everybody really likes, but you also have a great deal of support. And by that, I'll give you some examples. Our director of compliance, Cindy Pollack, has over 30 years of experience, and compliance is always sort of it can be really tricky and in some ways bothersome aspect to what we do. And so having Cindy, for instance, as the intermediary between the advisors and our home office compliance team is really helpful. And so we see the OSJ roles as being able to support the advisors with expertise in ways that honestly the broker-dealers just can't. They will not have the kind of personnel that we have with experience and dedication and in that staff ratio. So we support right now about 90 advisors, and we have there's a team of 10 of us, and we each have our own area of expertise that we really focus in. My partner Trisha Qualley focuses primarily on practice management. She helps develop our team and client marketing. Tom Rittberger focuses on succession and continuity, business planning strategies, mergers, acquisitions. So we all have a really important role to play in supporting the advisors. And I think going forward, I know there's a great movement towards independent RIAs, and it's been very kind of interesting as I watch this evolution of people who, advisors who think they're going to be unencumbered by the constraints of FINRA, only to find out that running a business, especially an RIA, is so much more work than they ever expected and much more expensive with a lot more responsibility. So,
and risk.
Obviously risk. So we like to think like we're bringing the best of everything together in one place.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, so how do you really not add value, but like Trisha, who's awesome, by the way, and she does sort of the business planning and all that stuff for the advisors. So you have the specialists that advisors can tap into, and then in addition to that, I would assume that you have added support from Royal, right, in areas where you want to leverage their size and scale, but bring it down to a more high touch. And I know Tom from his previous firm. So again, you're like assembling a great team of industry experienced industry experienced leaders. So how do you leverage your sort of the scale of the firm of Royal Alliance / Advisor Group, right? You can define, there's different scales there, right? And benefit them without them getting sort of lost in the mega firm Rolodex and 1-800, leave a message kind of thing.
Right.
I'm not saying that Royal does that. I'm just saying that,
that could be a typical experience, not with our OSJ or
right.
with Royal, but that's a great question. And when I was talking before about feeling like we are in this perfect spot, I mean, we do take a great deal of advantage in, the 2,500 employees that Advisor Group has. And because of their scale and because of their size, they actually bring things to the table that not only do we utilize and need, but have really translated into really enhanced services for advisors. And I'll give you a couple of really realistic, recent ways that we've utilized them. So our team has grown. We've doubled in size in about 2 years. And because, with growth comes certain challenges, we really wanted, this commitment to being a great employer. We really needed help in the human capital area. None of us, neither Tom nor Trish or I, had really had that kind of responsibility before. I mean, Tom had always managed a lot of people and Trish has always been managing teams, but we had questions about everything from compensation and structure and integration and how to keep people engaged. And, Advisor Group has a consulting arm, and one of the areas that they consult with us in is human capital. And I can't tell you how much we learned and how valuable it's going to be, not only for us, but if our advisors are having those issues, they get to use that as well. Another way that we really utilize their resources and, build on the support that we give them is, they have a great technology team who will go out and help you, train you. They will do an evaluation. Like, what are you missing? Like, what in your tech stack could be better or you could be utilizing differently? So these kind of really hands-on resources where the scale and the size and the scope of really the talent at Advisor Group, we wouldn't have access to any other way, and neither would our advisors. And I think that and incredibly effective coaching programs that they run, just for instance, a few of the ways that we really do utilize their scale and their resources and their people.
That's really good. Yeah, I think that, as you grow an organization, something that I keep hearing from you in terms of leadership, and you sort of know what you're good at and know what you're not good at, which is a big deal because, as you grow, we were just having this conversation the other day. Like, as you grow to another level, there are things that are going to come up that you haven't experienced at the lower level, the smaller level. And so you have to be able to be wise enough and not let your ego get in the way of saying, I've never been in this position before. I don't know, I'm struggling with this area. And so, I think that's always been the strength of a great OSJ for an advisor, because there's that other level of support that, you sort of, you get to know them, and maybe over time, you get to really understand how they're thinking. And so they're calling you up, and before they even ask a question, you probably know what's going on in their head, right?
Right. Or how we might be able to
right.
help them.
So speaking of help, right? So that's a sort of great pivot. You've been around a long time. We talked about, I think, our philosophies on, advisors going and becoming an RIA, opening up an RIA, not becoming an RIA, but becoming an IA of an RIA, and the pitfalls of that. I think we agree there. If you're an advisor today, right, and there's this huge movement from W-2 advisors to 1099. So I want you to talk about that in a second. Actually, maybe talk about that now. Like, what are you seeing in terms of that movement? Are you seeing that they're still coming the way, coming over from the W-2 model? Are you getting any pressure from them to roll out a W-2 model? When I say them, I mean advisors that talk to you and they're like, Rita, you're awesome, right? But I just don't want to worry about the lights and worry about the rent and worry about the this and that and whether the paper towels are there or.
It's a lot. And this movement that you're speaking about really started quite a while ago. So about 12 years ago, I started a kind of separate but obviously adjacent and aligned company called Freedom Capital Management in Homedale, New Jersey. And the reason I started it was evident to me even then that advisors were really starting to question whether what they were giving up in terms of owning their clients, flexibility in terms of what they're offering their clients as solutions, was this trade-off with what they were getting paid out on their production worthwhile. So this actually, the genesis of this goes back, quite a way, as you and I both know. And I can tell you that I think that one of the things that has really accelerated the pace of this, of advisors saying, like, really, what am I paying for, right? What am I getting in exchange for having maybe a brand name on the front door and giving up a large, very large, maybe the majority of my compensation or revenue that I generate, has been the pandemic. Because advisors realized very quickly, we all did, right, that we could be just as effective with our clients on a Zoom from our dining room table as we could be in a really expensive office that took a lot to maintain. So I think advisors want to continue to be able to focus more on their clients than on, as you say, infrastructure, because who really wants to be dealing with all of that? So I think sometimes a great solution for people coming out of, a W-2 situation and wants the freedom is to not really worry so much about, like, how is this whole thing going to work? There's a lot of solutions. I know your firm offers a lot of solutions for these advisors, and you do your best to make sure that there's a fit as well as a financial well-being in the deal as well. So I think this trend is actually going to accelerate. I think the wirehouses, for instance, have gotten really smart in their approach of dealing with them, and that is to put everyone in teams. So it becomes much more difficult to lift out a whole team or to keep everything kind of on the down low as you're doing that. But I do think that this trend is not going to go away. It will, if anything, accelerate with the freedom that the pandemic provided and figuring out we could work from anywhere and cut out our commute.
Yeah. How are you handling the other trend in terms of succession planning or lack thereof, right? Many advisors don't have a succession plan or a contingent plan. At Affiliated, how are you handling that for your advisors that are there, right? And potential new advisors that are considering joining you, like why should they have you and your team, someone at your firm as their succession plan? Like it's an industry trend. Someone's going to have to deal with it at some point. How are you all handling it?
Right. Well, we will have to deal with it sooner rather than later. I'm 65 years old. I'm probably about the same age as the average advisor. So we have this aging advisor population. I started to think about my succession planning several years ago and have been so fortunate in being able to bring in, two younger generations. So there's a generation between myself and Tom, and then a generation between Tom and Tricia. So I think, that's really an ideal solution, but it doesn't always work that way, and especially for advisors. So the first thing that you mentioned, which is, I'd like to start with, is continuity plan. And I am absolutely amazed, Frank, how often we'll work with a new advisor and we'll ask them if they have a continuity plan, and they don't. Now, why would you, as a financial advisor who really has to take a long, hard, studied look at how your client can tolerate risk, and you not take care of your own risk? So first thing we try to do is explain the importance of a continuity agreement. No one plans to have a heart attack. Nobody says next Tuesday morning, I'm going to get into a horrible car crash, on the West Side Highway and be disabled. Nobody thinks that. But unfortunately, advisors, just like their clients, they have to plan for it. So we try to really impress advisors on the importance of this, and we try to make it really easy. And we will always be that backup continuity plan for any advisor in our group. And the reason it's absolutely essential that they have a continuity plan in place is, there are regulations where we might not be able to. I mean, we're legally not allowed, the broker-dealer, to pay somebody's spouse, for instance, if there's not a continuity plan on file. So that's, something that I urge everyone who's listening to make sure they have a continuity plan in place.
By the way, if I can interrupt right there, you also need to, if I were you, I would be talking to your clients about it, because they're thinking about it. Like your clients are thinking. I talk to so many advisors that they like, yeah, my clients are starting to ask me, like, what happens if I get hit by the proverbial bus? Like, you need to have something in place, and don't keep it a secret from your clients, because you might not be getting all the money from a client because you didn't communicate that you're 65 years old and you have a 42-year-old coming in as the successor. And they've withheld assets because they're concerned. So they're spreading their risk. I see that as a big mistake.
It is a big mistake. And to your point, it's very rare that clients verbalize that, but it's not very rare that they're thinking it.
Oh, no. Yeah.
So one of the other ways that we facilitate this, and we've done this quite a bit, not only do we have a great advisor base at affiliated advisors. So oftentimes the buyer for practice can be an advisor that they know from the community of affiliated advisors. But, there's, thousands and thousands of advisors between Royal Alliance and Advisor Group. I think Advisor Group is over 10,000 advisors now. And they actually have a very robust mergers and acquisitions department that helps a lot. So that's another resource that we lean on quite frequently. So not only do we have the ability to really put some energy, effort, and time into finding that perfect successor, but we can also, with the help of Advisor Group, really minimize the time and the paperwork and the operational aspects of transitioning a book, selling a book to your future successor.
Awesome. Let's shift gears for a second. We got to, just want to make sure we're good on time, because I wanted to really talk about, pick your brain on, if you're an advisor today, whether you're thinking about making a move or not thinking about making a move, what are the 2 or 3 things that advisors should be thinking about as a practitioner servicing clients, sort of with the markets that we're in or going to be in? Maybe you never know. Like we've been around a long time, both of us. And so we've seen things, right? And you're around. There's a lot of advisors that candidly have not been through anything, right? I was talking to somebody the other day and I said, yeah, when we go into a really a market, market cycle, I was saying, they're like, well, we were just in one. I'm like, no. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm like, what happened in 2022 is not what I'm talking about. That was like a little bit, like that was like taking your foot off the gas a little bit. I said, that's not what I'm talking about. I said, there's a lot of advisors that have never really been through anything. So what are you telling your team, your advisors? You get on a call with all your folks and you're saying, hey, everybody, these are the 2-3 things you need to be focusing on right now.
Yes. Well, first of all, Tom and I and Trisha were just talking about this morning that, 2002 was a really horrible down market. And then the, global financial crisis in 2008. There are advisors out there that have not been through this kind of cycle before. And I can tell you, even if you have, it can be really a very exhausting and wearisome place to be, especially if you find yourself talking to your clients in an inauthentic way where almost every conversation sounds the same because she's just gotten into this pattern. So the first thing that I would say is more than ever, truly be authentic. And that means like you really have to listen. You really have to hear. And you really have to be authentically you in communicating and responding to your clients because they really need it. The other thing that I see happen frequently, and it starts off maybe a little bit insidiously and grows, is you find reasons not to have client-facing activities. You're doing paperwork of some sort. You're spending too much time looking at your emails. Your emails are dictating your actions instead of you're using your time in client-facing ways. And I recently read a statistic that the average doctor spends less than 29% of his time face-to-face with patients. And I thought, oh my gosh, if doctors are that way, and they're usually in a very kind of structured environment, what is the average advisor doing? So be really careful of your time. Don't hide behind tasks. Only check your emails like 2 or 3 times a day. There's nothing that important on them, and really increase the amount of time that you're spending with your clients. The other thing that I think is essential, and it's kind of maybe a silver lining in this awful cloud of layoffs, is that if you're not letting your clients know that you can help with friends, colleagues, or family members who've been laid off, I think you're missing a huge opportunity. Unfortunately, part of the recession that we're in, and I am going to call it a recession, and this period of high inflation, is that there's massive layoffs. We're seeing it already. And this is a time when people are at their most vulnerable and really need advisors' help the most. So, in gentle, kind ways, let your clients know that you're available to help. And there, will unfortunately be a really large market in rollover IRAs, I believe, in the next year or year and a half.
Yeah, I think advisors make the mistake of saying to a client, hey, they ask for referrals in the wrong way, right? They say something like, if you ever have a friend who wants to talk, let me know, right? You have to be more specific. If you have anybody that they're in your circle that maybe just got laid off from their company, let me know, and I'd be happy to give them a call and walk through what their options might or might not be. Like, you have to be specific. If you know a friend that's been because clients don't think like that. They just think, oh, yeah, I haven't talked to anybody about their finances in a while, so I don't have any referrals for you, right? But if you say who was recently laid off or went through a divorce, or recently had parents pass away and are looking for help with their estate plan, or like, you have to give specific instances so clients the light bulb will go off. I promise you, like you're saying, like it will go off. Like, oh yeah, Jill I think she just retired from her company. Like, so that's great advice.
Yeah. And it's really true because our clients are not financial advisors, so they might not see these connections unless, as you said, you point it out and actually connect the dots for them.
Yeah, let me just close. I want to just explain to people you said something, and it's really one of the reasons why we love doing business with you. Be authentic with your clients. Like, be authentic with them, listen to them, but be authentic with them. It doesn't mean when the market's, falling out of bed and you say to them, "Oh I'm panicking too. Like, I don't know what to do." Right. Right. Don't say that, because you probably lose that client. Right. But don't give them the canned line like, "Oh, this happens every cycle, and it's not about, you're not selling today, and don't look at your statement." Like, be authentic. Hear them. Rita, I understand how this is frustrating to you. We want to make sure that you're in the right position. That's why we did X, Y, or Z. Reiterate the things, if you were doing them the right way, which you should. Reiterate the planning that went into what you're doing with that client, and bring them back to that. And candidly, look, I would say that I learned, I made this mistake when it was 2000, 2001, 2, because I had just enough of a book to do some damage, right? It was like a pamphlet at the time. Because I gave them the company line, stay invested, and blah, blah, all that stuff. And honestly, sometimes you just need to take a client out of the market if they're losing sleep and they just can't handle it anymore. Listen to them, and just, be authentic.
Yeah, that's really true. And I think that if, you're giving somebody sort of a rote response, you're probably not really tapping into their emotions, which are unfortunately going to drive behavior that is exactly what a financial designer is, at the best it's designed to do. It's to make sure that you do get market returns by staying in the market long term and not being pushed and pulled by fear and greed. And this is I'm not telling you anything shockingly new. We've all seen those Vanguard studies of the difference in returns between people who invest in their mutual funds with an advisor versus doing it on their own. But I do think that, this is really a challenging time. And as you said, the first time a lot of advisors are going through it, and it's okay to really ask probing questions so you understand what somebody really is anxious or scared or nervous about, and then really listen to the answers.
Right, because they could be more nervous, not necessarily about the market going down, but they may be more nervous because they're aging parent and they're thinking about what that's going to mean to them to take care of their mother or father, who they're actually looking to put them into a nursing home or something that you may not know because you haven't been talking to them about that stuff. And so you have to get the root cause. So, but the other component that I think, and I want to just finish it with, sort of having you talk about why, really, aside from all the great stuff we talked about, why an advisor should look to affiliate with you, if they, no pun, I guess pun intended there. Is your passion for the business is something that with my group resonates with my consultants when we're thinking about advisors making a move and putting them in a place where we know they'll be in a good place, right? Well, we know they're going to be taken care of. And your passion, and you're just a very genuine person. Like, for those of you that are watching us on video, like, this is Rita, right?
Right.
If I'm an advisor and I've had clients talk with her, this is it. Like, this is Rita. It's really refreshing. And an advisor, you're making a big decision to move firms. You want to know who you're partnering with, and to sort of being the way you're genuine is just, it's very refreshing for us. So with that said, if I'm an advisor and I'm thinking about making a move, right? Aside from all the great stuff you talked about, what are the 3 or 4 things that an advisor should consider when looking at affiliated and becoming a partner with you?
Well, I think there are some things that really set us apart. You've hit on a few of them. Out of a 10-person team, 9 of us are women. And I think that while female advisors are not our sole market, certainly we're really comfortable with that. And I think that we bring a certain kind of energy and compassion and caring. And I think it really is this marriage of great people with lots of industry experience, on top of the resources, the scale, and the scope of, this big advisor group behind us. So I think it can be a perfect combination. But I do know that, the things that are most important to us when we speak with an advisor candidate who's looking to join us, is there going to be a fit? Are our values going to align? Are we going to enjoy working with each other? We really, really put a lot into what we do, just as our advisors do. So we're kind of picky about who we work with. And I would ask advisors who were thinking about making a change, don't think about this just from a financial perspective. There is so much more that has to be a really good fit, where you're going to really feel comfortable and really thrive. And because it is such a hugely important decision, don't overlook those aspects of a relationship that are very hard to quantify, but we certainly feel when it's right, when you mesh with someone.
Yeah, I always talk to advisors and they say, well, can't I just fill out a questionnaire and then, answer 45 questions about my practice, and then you'll spit out a thing and says, here's the 4 firms you should talk to. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't work that way.
No.
Yeah, it doesn't work that
really
way.
Doesn't.
No, because so many of these firms, and there's lots of good firms. Advisor Group's a great firm, Royal Alliance, but a lot of the stuff that gets delivered is commoditized now, right? Not in everything, right? But there's a lot of things today that are just commoditized. And the separators, what I have seen with advisors that really grow exponentially when moving firms, is because they chose the right firm, and economics was like 4th or 5th on the list in terms of their decision, right? Because you can get to a point where it's plus or minus a point or two, that's like a rounding error, right? If you're at the wrong firm, it's going to be like a 10-point difference because you're going to lose money.
Right. You'll be miserable and unhappy. And so I really agree with you. And I think that we really overlook that, or it can be really overlooked as advisors do due diligence. They sometimes have this tendency, as you say, to just sheet everything. And, life is not about a spreadsheet. It's about how you feel when you interact with people, and whether you can trust them, and whether they're going to be there, when times are bad. The same way advisors want to be there for their clients, they need that same kind of support.
Well, we love working with you. It's great to work with you for all those reasons. We trust that when we make an introduction that our clients are going to take care of. So we appreciate it. This was great.
Thank you so much. This is so much
keep
fun.
going, and it's very passionate.
Yeah.
We get very passionate about these calls, or we're on the same page with a lot of that stuff. So it's awesome.
Totally.
So for my listeners, how do they get in touch with you if they're interested in, like, man, I want some of that? Like,
well, they can always call your firm.
That's true. You can call me at 856-316-4651, right? And how do they reach you?
Or they can call me directly at 212-695-5558, or go to our website, affiliatedadvisors.com.
Awesome. We love it. It's great. For our listeners, don't forget, you can watch us, as we mentioned, watch us on our YouTube channel, Advisor Talk with Frank LaRosa. Don't forget to check out my Instagram page, which is franklarosa.elite. I'll put some great stuff on there. It's not all financial service related, but we appreciate it for everyone. Don't forget to go and like and subscribe, and really forward this video if you have a friend that's interested in making a move and looking around, they're not sure. Forward this to them, because this will give them some really good insight into what they should be looking for when they're looking at a new firm, if they're unfortunate enough not to be working with us on helping them make the move. So anyway, Rita, thank you very much. It was great. I loved having it. I was very excited about today. So I appreciate it, and I love your passion. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Frank.
Thanks for listening to Advisor Talk with Frank LaRosa. If you're looking for more advice or solutions on any topics in the financial services industry, or you just want to subscribe to our podcast, head on over to eliteconsultingpartners.com/podcasts.